Welcome everyone to Overcome Podcast. Today's guest is someone that I've been trying to get to the show for a long time because a lot of experience in judo, but also in fixing people and making sure that people has a good posture and they can stay longer doing things. Dr. Ray Marquez. Dr. Ray, thank you very much for being on.
Right on. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Great to have you here. I have so many questions that I think will help so many people. But I was looking to your background with the competition. More than 45 years of judo. Is that right?
Yeah, maybe just a little more. Yeah, I come from a judo family. So my father was doing judo before I was born. So I think I started around four or so. And, I've been going my whole life. There was times when I didn't do as much, like through college and all that, but I've been around it my entire life.
And six
And
degree BJJ black belt. That's also a huge accomplishment.
so 6 degree judo and then black belt in jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just on the mat a lot. So it's all good. It's all the same to me.
But you started judo first, right? Then BJJ later.
Yeah, I started judo first. I started jujitsu about 10 years ago, maybe a little longer.
Okay. And the question that I always ask for players that do both sports is which one is easier on the body?
Well, obviously, I think jujitsu is a little easier on the body because you're not getting thrown.
Yeah.
I think it's difficult for people in judo to start later in life, just because they have more aches and pains and they don't commit as much time to doing their break falls. Um,
That's a great point because I personally started after 40s, both jiu-jitsu and judo. Jiu-jitsu first, and it is really hard to get used to get thrown. Really hard.
of course, I think, with kids, they don't know any better and you don't have a fear of getting injured and you don't get injured, so you can practice it much more. I think when you teach adults judo, like even at my schools, the amount of time that you should put in for break falls is huge in the beginning, and it's hard to keep students interested that long, right? In order to do it correctly, if you just did break falls for say 3 to 6 months and did some newaza and some easy moves, they would be better at being thrown. But it's hard to keep students that long.
Yeah.
So I think there's challenges with it.
Now, talking about judo after 40s, for people that are starting, because as you said, if you started early in life, you are used to, so it's much easier. But if you start after 40s, what are your main advice?
So a few things. Main advice, um, number one, take it slow. Like don't overtrain with it. My father's school was only had Tuesday and Thursday workouts from 7 to 8:30 for the longest time, and our clubs produced multiple national champions. You don't need 4, 5, 6 days a week. So when you first join, you're excited about it and you would do it a bunch. But over 40, you may want to do it, but your body may not, you know, play with you,
Hmm.
right? So take it slow and just be consistent. The next thing is listen to your body. There's a difference between aches and pains and soreness and injury, and don't fight through those injuries. Probably the most common thing I see is you'll get like a back strain or shoulder strain or knee strain, or you'll tweak it and you continue to train through it. And that's probably the worst thing you can do. As soon as you feel anything, just give it a stop, do something different, or just give it a break and figure out what happened and give it some rest. So again, that probably points to recovery and don't overtrain. I think if you're doing judo specific, um, lots of break falls, lots of ukemis. You just got to do a ton of them and take them slow and do them correctly. And don't be afraid to be thrown and land correctly, and just practice that more than your throws in the beginning. I think that would help the most.
Interesting. Yeah, what is your take on mobility? Because after 40, one of the big struggle as well is hip mobility. You have to have so much hip
So,
mobility to do entries and everything, and people are very stiff. So
yeah.
what you should do in parallel to go to class as far as mobility?
So look, that's huge. That's huge in my training, even to this day. Um, I do a lot of dynamic stretching. I probably stretch more than I do strength training. So,
But first,
you know,
first of all,
obviously,
define dynamic stretching. What do you call dynamic stretching?
so dynamic stretching is just movement stretching. So I'm moving while I'm stretching. I'm not standing still. I'm not seated like a typical.
Mm.
I'm going to sit down and stretch my hamstrings, which is good, but I'd rather do like a Frankenstein or a walking lunge or something like that to get my muscles to stretch out while moving in the directions I'm most likely going to be moving in. So my dynamic stretching, I kind of cater towards judo and a lot of the throws I do, but and also for my body. So when you do a dynamic stretching, so like in the dojo, I don't know how long my dojo is, like maybe 30 feet. Like I'll go back and forth as I'm moving, doing specific stretches. And it does a couple things. Number one, it stretches the muscles out that you want to stretch, but it also stretches and strengthens the supporting muscles that we forget about. You know, how can we stand there and stretch my hamstring while I'm standing? Well, my abs have to contract, my glutes have to contract, my low back. So I'm working everything while I'm stretching. And we kind of miss that when you do a static
And
stretch.
you do that prior to start training, or you do that even on the
Yeah.
days that you don't train?
So on the days I'm on the mat, we always do dynamic stretching. So we always warm up moving. And then 3 other days, I probably devote 20 to 30 minutes to stretching in conjunction with my strength training. So say we do a set of kettlebells and in between we'll be doing lunges or kettlebells and I'll be doing a Frankenstein stretch. So it's a huge part of my training. So the mobility part.
It was always that way, or you
No,
no, no.
no, it wasn't. Yeah, over 40. I think Roddy Ferguson was the first person who turned me onto it about 10 years ago
Interesting.
because he realized how stiff I was getting. But now I'm a firm believer in it, and not just for judo. Like all the stretches that I prescribe to my patients are the same ones I'm doing for judo because I think they just help. Um, and when I prescribe them to my patients, obviously not to the same intensity that I'm doing them, but I'll say, hey, do 10 or 15 minutes of dynamic stretching at least 4 times a week in order to increase mobility, break up adhesions, decompress joints, strengthening, supporting muscles. So
And you
that's
don't have to have a big space to do that, right? You can do this in.
no, no, you can do them. I can do them in my living room. You only need a few feet. You don't need much. It's the fact of keeping the body moving while we're stretching. And there's a ton of stuff out there. Like if you just put dynamic stretching in, like if you Google it or you go on YouTube, there's all kind of people that do it. So there's enough. There's plenty of easy ways to find out where you can stretch, and you got to find the ones that are good for you. Like there's some that are much more difficult for me than maybe they would be for you.
Mhm.
So then I work on the ones that are hard for me.
Interesting. Aside from stretching, the other big part, and you probably agree with me on that, is recovery. And you just mentioned train 3 times a week, take it easy and everything. Uh, what is your recovery regimen? Do you have something specific that you do?
Yeah, well, it's a bunch of little things that have kind of evolved. I do quite a bit. Like I try to recover just as intensely as I train, and that takes an effort. And recovery just isn't not training. So a lot of people think, hey, I'm gonna, I trained hard this week. I'm just gonna rest. I'm just gonna sit there. It's more than that. I mean, rest is huge. It's a big part of it, but there's so much more. So I got a bunch of stuff. First and foremost, days off or rest. And for me, that's difficult sometimes because my brain's always going. I'm always wanting to do something. Sometimes I just have to force myself to sit there on a sofa and just take a nap and rest for a little while. Um, I'm a huge proponent of sleep, and I fight it, man. But I take all kind of supplements to try to make myself sleep better. I try to get 7 hours in. Sometimes that's hard for me. More is better. I think if you can go up to 8 or so, it's even better. But for me, 7 seems to be the number. I make sure I take a 20-minute nap every day.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
And then look, you can get good at taking naps. I wasn't before, but now, man, I can get in a pretty deep sleep in about 10 minutes and deep sleep another 5 and I'm up and I'm good, which is crazy, but I've gotten better at it. So rest is probably the first thing.
I've seen some of your videos you doing cold plunge. Do you really believe in cold plunge?
Oh, huge. So that's another thing. Yeah, huge fan. And I'm relatively new to it. I've only been doing it about maybe 2 months now, but now I'm almost addicted to it and I feel so much better. So I went and bought like it's an inexpensive cold plunge. It's just like it's a small tub kind of thing. You blow it up and you fill it up with water and you put a bunch of ice in it. And I do 3 minute intervals. So sometimes I'll do 3 minutes and then I'll switch with heat. So I have a sauna or a hot tub. I'll get in a sauna for 10 minutes and then cold plunge for 3 and go back and forth 3 or 4 times. I know there's a lot of people that wake up and do cold plunges. I'm not there yet, man. There's a mental thing there. I haven't overcome yet. I like doing it after heat, but according to some studies, I think there was a Dr. Sober out of like Finland or somewhere. You only need 11 minutes a week to get all the neurological benefits from doing cold plunges, and it doesn't have to be all at once. So you could do a few minutes, a few times a week.
But since you just started, what were the benefits that you already?
So immediately, I had my hips hurt from all the years of judo. So immediately, I could see a difference in my hips and my low back.
Really?
That
Wow.
inflammation was down. Yeah, 100% difference. Is my joint pains down? In my gripping too. My gripping, like because of judo, it gets bad. My joints and my hands are much better. So you have the obvious anti-inflammatory effects right off the bat. 100% make a difference. Then I just feel better. They say you get like a dopamine rush and all these other things, and there's supposed to be all kind of stuff that happens neurologically to you from doing it, and you just feel better. It's almost like a high when you're done. So right now I'm doing it 4 days a week.
And do you do in the morning or you do after workout? What do you do?
Um, I do it later in the afternoon. So they say you're not supposed to cold plunge after weight training because you want that inflammation in your body to help you recover. So after my judo workouts and cardio workouts, I'll come home and do it. Like I'll sit in the sauna for 20 minutes and then I'll jump in the cold plunge and I'll go back and forth. And really, it's not as tough as you think. I mean, you got to get over that mental part. There's a mental part of just getting in that you got to overcome. That takes a second. But once you get used to that part, and once you're in, you're kind of just cold. It's not like once you hyperventilate for a second, then you're fine. You just sit there. So I'm doing them after my workouts in the
And you
afternoon.
do 2-3 minutes at a time?
You go always 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Yeah.
Always 3 minutes. In the beginning, I started out in a minute, and then I worked my way up. I've done as long as 5. I mean, once you can do 5, you can really do as long as you want because you're just cold.
Yeah.
But they say that I haven't found any studies where longer is better. They say
Yeah,
you
it,
get 3
it
minute
feels
workout.
like most of the people do 3 minutes. Seems to be the sweet spot.
Yeah. I researched a bunch that doesn't seem like more is better. And even like I get in the 50s. I'm not going all the way down to the 30s. And I've gone lower, but I haven't again found any science. Like all the science so far is saying something crazy, like 34 degrees to 59 degrees is all you need.
And you do
And
and this cold plunge that you bought because I saw the video. It like plastic, right? Something like that.
yeah, it's cheap. It was like $100.
And
Yeah.
you go up to 50 just with ice. You just put a bunch of ice.
Yeah, I gotta put like 35 pounds of ice. I bought a small ice machine.
Oh, okay.
Like before I was going to the store and buying bags, but I bought a little ice machine and
Nice.
it's right next to it and I just put it in there. I think I'm gonna purchase the one that has the machine that cools it off eventually, but they start like at $3,000. So I don't know if I want to spend the money just yet on that when the $100 one works just fine.
Yeah, $100 for 3 grand is a big
Yeah.
difference.
I mean, cold's cold,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I have a big problem with cold. I'm originally from Brazil, and the region that I grew up in Brazil, the coldest we get every year is 70 degrees. So I
Oh,
still
yeah.
don't like
Look,
cold.
it's a mental thing. It's really like the first day I did it, like I thought about it the whole time I was at judo. I thought about it on the ride home. and I put the ice there and I stared at it for like another 20 minutes. You just got to get in, man. Like for me, it's just like diving in, just going quick.
Now, talking about mental aspect, there is another part of all the preparation and everything is the mental aspect. You've been on this sport for a long time. I don't even know if you have this problem or if you deal with other students or people that have this problem. How you deal with this mental pressure, of competition, because you compete a lot. I mean, you go to competitions multiple times a year, not only in US but internationally. Do you ever get nervous at all these days?
Yeah, I get just like everybody else. I get nervous every match, 100%. But I work on it a lot too. So that's another big part of my life. I meditate every day. Um, I meditate this morning for 30 minutes, and I do it a little differently. I mean, I do traditional meditation, but when I do it for judo, I do 5 minute intervals. Like the first 5 minutes, I do deep breathing. Like I breathe in 6 seconds, hold 2, breathe out 8, and I'll do that for 5. That kind of calms me down. And then I'll go through all my moves. So I do like visualization meditation. So for example, this morning I did 5 minutes of Seinagi, and I would just visualize myself going out to the mat, bowing in, Hajime, getting out in there, and then throwing Ippon Seinagi and throwing the different scenarios. So I did Seinagi, and I did Morote Seinagi for another 5. Then I did Seo Kosoto for another 5. And then I did a ground attack for 5. So I keep on going over those moves. And by meditating my moves in a competition setting, when I actually go to compete, I've already been there 1,000 times. So it backs off on that nervousness. So for me, it's not so much winning the match as to completing what I'm supposed to be doing, like to focus on my moves and doing certain things. And the meditation helps tremendously.
Is that something that you incorporate later on after 42, or is something that you've done for a long?
Yeah, this is relatively recent. I've been meditating for like 2 years. And I started meditation, like just your like general meditation. I used an app called Headspace. I purchased, it's like a yearly membership thing, and I learned how to meditate. So that I did that for a little while. And then recently I've just been reading a lot about sports science and sports psychology. And one of the things was the visualization meditation. So that I've probably been doing. I started it right before Worlds in Poland. So about a year or so, a year and a half, and helps tremendously. But when I don't do stuff like that, and then you compete, your nervousness goes up tremendously, because now you're thinking, hey, I don't want to lose, I don't win, what should I do? Look at that guy, he looks tough, oh, he's higher ranked than me, or he's bigger than me, and all these other thoughts that come through that really shouldn't matter at all, because you still just have to complete the task, right? And by meditating, you go through all of that, and that helps more. Plus, it just, even generally in life, it calms my brain down. Like when I miss some meditation, like all my thoughts are all over the place. Like I'll be doing one thing and then another thought comes in my head, and I got to do this, or I forgot, I got to go do that. And with meditating, it helps focus all that.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people struggle with meditation because nowadays it's so hard to stop even for 5 minutes without doing anything, because you have so many distractions. You have the phone, you have so many things going on that your brain just doesn't really stop.
But I read a thing. It was an interesting comment, and it said, "Hey, you can control your hand, right? I can control my hands. Why can't I control my brain? You can. You just have to work at it."
But it's not easy. It's not.
It's not easy. It's very, very, very difficult. But you got to realize, though, the point in meditating, like people, I've heard a lot of my friends say, well, I can't meditate because I think too much.
Yeah.
Well, that's the reason to do it. The act of meditating isn't being able to be silent with yourself. The act of meditating is taking your thoughts that come to your head and refocusing them back to the center. So if you're concentrating, let's say, on your breathing, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Oh, I got judo at 10. No. You got to take your brain. That's a thought. I'm back to breathing in and breathing out. So the act of meditating is training your brain back to the center. So when you look at it that way, then even if your brain is busy, but you keep on focusing back to the center, then you're meditating. So that's what seems to help me the most.
And you said that you took a training to teach how to meditate. So it's very complex, right? I mean, you really have to centralize your focus.
Yeah, it takes some work. The app that I use, and there's a bunch of apps out there. Headspace is the one I just kind of picked. They talk you through it. So it's a talking meditation. So the guy will come out and tell you to breathe and focus on relaxing and all that, and then how to count your breaths. And then when a thought comes to your brain, to accept it, don't dwell long on it, and refocus back to the breathing. And they had beginner schedule, then advanced and all that stuff. And I went through that for about 2 years. I don't use the app anymore because I can control it. And for me, it's deep breathing, and then I do my judo. So if I can concentrate on Seoinage for 5 minutes, I'm not thinking of other things. So it's really kind of the same.
Yeah, the visualization is a big thing. A lot of athletes that I talk in the past, they do visualization to a point that they said, I even start to get sweat when I'm visualizing because it's almost like I'm doing it.
Here's an interesting, for me, it helps. And this is for guys over 40. Like as we age, like I notice I don't fire as quickly. Like I can be in a match and I know I'm in the situation. I know when I attack, but my body doesn't go. Right. So that you have that lag, right? The meditation helps that. I last year at the US Open, I competed against a guy and he presented to me a left side Seoinage, which I've never hit. And I had been working on it, only meditating it. And I did a little bit in the club, but I meditated the most. And as soon as I saw that situation, my body moved and went.
Really? Wow.
Because we had been practicing it so much in my head.
And you didn't do a lot of Uchikomi on that side?
Not. I didn't have the time to. We just started, but I was visualizing it the whole time. From what I read, they say in order to get your body to fire, like your muscles and your body to coordinate a movement, you have to get your brain to go down the nerve pathways to your muscles, right? And those nerves are covered by myelin. And myelin is like an insulator. And the more you have of it around a nerve, the faster it goes. So that's how you build like coordination, right? Mm-hmm. So if I do a Seoinage, I step in and put my arm and I go through it, and I'm training my body to go through these movements. The more that I do those movements, the more myelin I have around those nerves, the faster I fire. They've done studies where they're saying visualization, meditation can build the myelin on those nerves just as efficiently as physically doing it.
Wow.
So when that situation presented itself, my body fired. I didn't have to think about it. So I was able to cut down on that lag.
That's incredible. I would never imagine. I always thought that you have to physically practice in order to...
Well, you do, but it was something crazy, like 80 or 90% the same of building that myelin. And again, for guys over 40, it's the point of firing, right? Hey, I see the situation. That might get my body to move correctly into it.
And in this particular example that you gave, you didn't even hit this left Seoinage in Randori at all, right?
No, I remember Hector. Hector came up to me and was like, "Wow, that was a left side Seoinage." I was like, "Yeah, can you believe it?"
Yeah.
And I got through to the pond too, so it was a good throw.
Yeah, unbelievable. That's amazing. Yeah, definitely adds a lot of value.
Here's the thing, like with the visualization meditation for people that have lives, so you're over 40, you have a family, and you have things to do, and it's hard to get to judo all the time. Well, you can do judo twice a week or once a week, but you can still get another 2 or 3 days of work in just by meditating. Mm-hmm. Right? So when I tell people I train 7 days a week, well, I may not physically be on the mat, but every day I'm doing judo. So just because you're not on the mat all the time, or you're busy, or life is getting in the way, doesn't mean you have to miss stuff. You can still work on your technique.
Interesting. And I love the fact that you brought this leg. I in my case, sometimes, since I'm not so used to yet, I think there's a lot of hesitation. You see the movement and you hesitate to go. And I believe in some cases the hesitation is lack of you don't feel confident to go, although the situation is there, you should go. right? I mean,
My
do
back
you
hurts.
have this type of thing? I mean, after so many years.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, of course. Mine may be a little better than yours because I've been doing it so long, but I still have that lag. I think that's everyone as we age, right? That firing power or that quickness deeply. It's like I probably can think and match through better than most Olympic athletes because I've been doing it so long, but I can't get my body to move like as quickly as they do, right? I can see it. I know it's there. I know what to do, but getting it done may be the bigger challenge, right?
Right, but I think there is a difference between the leg on firing and the hesitation of I will not go because of this and that. A lot of things pass on your head. Maybe you are afraid of a counter. There is some hesitation there, right?
Hey, that's a good point that you brought up. I think the hesitation. Number one, we have to train to do it, right? So that we can do. That's a physical thing. Next, like with randori or practicing in the club, you just have to begin to start attacking those throws with no fear of being countered. So I'll start with, you got to get a good uke, right, to train with. And you can say, okay, today I'm going to be hitting these moves. Don't counter me. Right? So you can get used to doing the move. Like it's an agreement. So it's not even like real randori, right? It's like a practice randori. Say, hey, I'm going to be doing Seinagi today. Don't, Tanya Toshimi or Nagami if I don't come in right. If I get it halfway decent, let me have to throw. And you practice that for a while, right? Because you got to get that fear in the beginning. It's a fear of being countered that stops, I think. Yeah. And the fear of feeling a little resistance. Like, I think most of my attacks or everyone's attacks, if you're done correctly, if you do them 100% correctly, they should be nice and smooth, right? That's how we learn judo. Nice, smooth, effortless throw. But that rarely happens. Like in every tournament, every throw is an effort.
Yeah.
So you have to get used to attacking a throw, knowing you're going to feel some resistance. Yeah. Right. So you do that by practicing it. Hey, don't counter me. And you do that for a while. And then you can say, all right, now you can counter me. But you just got to get that out of your head. So what if you get countered in practice? Mm-hmm. You just got to keep doing it so you know what it's going to feel like. So then when you do get to a tournament, you've been in that situation.
Yeah, and I was watching your match last weekend at Senior Nationals with Sandro, and there was a lot of effort, many throws, 100% all the time.
You just have to keep on going. Like I train with a guy who's really big. He's I don't know, like 270 pounds. And I work on my Seiya with him from the lapel because he's so heavy. And I concentrate on really pulling that lapel and getting in and using my entire body to make that effort because he is so heavy. And I probably get it like once out of every 20 attacks. So you have to get used to that effort. I think with a lot of the newer guys, as soon as they come in and they feel just a little effort, they back out.
Yes, exactly. I've seen that a lot. Yeah, they bail.
They bail on it. But you got to realize too, with today's scoring, like you don't need a lot to get a Wazari, right, man? Like if you just keep rotating and turning your head and just keep going, there's a chance that guy's going to land on his side and you're going to get Wazari. Yeah.
No, that's true.
So it's another reason never to stop. You just got to keep pulling through it.
And you do a lot of drop. So I'm wondering how your knees. I mean, do you feel any knee pain or anything, or you?
Yeah, my knees hurt. Again, that goes back to I pay a lot of attention to my knees. So, have you ever heard of the knees over toes guy?
No.
He's like all over Instagram. There's a guy that he was a basketball player in college and like blew his knees out and couldn't find anyone to rehab his knees. So he came up with this whole system, and it's basically, without going into detail, we stretch with our knees going over our toes. So he has a bunch of exercises that I do. Probably the main one that I do to rehab my knees is I walk backwards. So either walk backwards pulling a sled or I get on a treadmill. You've probably seen people do this. You get on a treadmill, you put it on a low setting and you push off your feet and you walk backwards. So I do that for 10 minutes probably before all my workouts. And then I do a bunch of stretches, mobility stretches and all that. So I pay a lot of attention to my knees in order to keep them mobile. I stop adhesions from building up. They hurt. I kind of accept some of that. Nothing's
Do
torn.
you use knee brace?
I used to wear the knee braces, but since I've been doing all the knee rehabs, I don't anymore.
You don't need it all. It doesn't help.
Doesn't I feel better without it.
Hmm, interesting.
And I think my right knee, I had a meniscus surgery, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I have a partially torn ACL on the one. I know my left one or the opposite one most likely has a torn meniscus. But I think by keeping the mobility in the joint and strengthening the lower muscles in your leg and your calves and all that, I've been able to avoid surgeries, and I haven't worn my braces in a couple of years.
Wow, interesting.
And I wore them for a long time.
Yeah, if I
Um,
don't wear a new brace, I feel like something's missing. So it's almost like mental now.
check out the knees over toes guy. Like he's a little extreme, but like he's marketing his product and all that. But he's got some really good exercises that I do, and I don't do all of them. I do a few of them, and I think just putting the effort out to your knees instead of just ignoring them and wearing braces, like do something physically to make them better. You can improve them.
Yeah, no, that's a great tip. Sometimes we put brace things as again is a placebo effect, right? Sometimes.
It is, but like with all injuries, even like with my back pain patients, a lot of people get injured and they stop wanting to do stuff, right? Oh, no, I'm not going to do it because it hurts, right? So I'm just going to avoid it and I won't do anything. And I don't think that's the way to go, because I think inactivity to certain joints will increase the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So with all my orthopedic issues, and I have them just like you do, probably my shoulders hurt, my knees hurt, my back hurts. I work at all of them to improve them. So, and doing different things between traction and stretching and manipulations and physical therapy and ice and all kind of stuff. But I work towards getting them better. And it's a constant grind. It's if I want to do this sport, you just have to continue to do it.
And
Can-
you have zero signs that you can stop because it looks like you want to become world champ at some point,
Absolutely.
right? And so you think of doing this on your 60s, 70s, probably.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here's the other thing. You have to acknowledge, father time, right? Like we age and things happen. And there's some moves that I just can't do anymore. Things that I know, and there's some moves that are too
Yeah.
dynamic for me. There's some, the 20-year-olds and all that can probably do everything. There's some dynamic moves I just won't do. And I probably see that more in jujitsu than I do in judo. Like jujitsu, there's so many crazy moves out there. Like there's so much stuff that these new
Yeah.
kids are trying to do. Like my body's never going to turn like that. I just
Yeah.
avoid to do the things that I can do. Um,
But I'm not sure if you're gonna agree with that because you've been doing judo for longer. But I feel like the learning curve for judo is way steeper than jiu-jitsu because jiu-jitsu I feel like I progress faster
of course,
than in judo. Judo it takes years just to perfect one throw.
yeah, and you know what? Like my main throw is Seo or Morote. That's probably one of the first throws I've ever learned. I've been doing it my whole life, and I still practice it. And there's still effort to be made towards getting it better. Um, Here's an example of moves that you can do. So my Morote Seo, I used to be able to easily do from a standard grip, right? But now because of my shoulder, when I do a standard like right on right grip, my right lapel hand won't rotate back as easy. So I do it with a cross grip. So I alter how I do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's just some moves that I can do that maybe you can't do. And you just have to work at what your body will allow you.
Hmm.
And you got to realize too with judo, man, you only need a couple throws.
Yeah.
You know, like I probably use 3 throws that I get everybody on, and you just got to keep practicing them. And you got to do a mind numbing amount of repetitions. You just got to, it's over and over and over and over. And that's all it
Many
is.
many times it's more about the setup. I feel like if you have the throws, it's all about putting the person on the position that you feel now it's time to go. Right? The setup is
Of
so
course.
important. The setup.
Yeah, 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 of course. Um, One thing I train a lot. like say to Seo, I'll do Seo from every angle. So we'll practice moving Uchikomis forward, backwards, sideways in an angle. You got to get used to hitting it from all different angles and then setting it up from those angles.
Interesting. Now going back to the mental aspect, I remember talking to you last weekend, and you saying that the explosion was not there last weekend.
Yeah.
And you don't know exactly what it was, if it was the cut, the big cut, but the power was not there, and there was of course a big expectation that you will be on top three because you are always there on podium, and didn't work out last week. How do you take those situations? How you deal with those situations?
Well, the first like 48 hours, I'm pissed like everybody else. And, I go through the mental things of saying I don't have it anymore. Maybe this is the end. I'm no good at judo and I'm not doing it anymore. Why do I put all this time in?
Do you review the videos and get even more pissed?
I will, but not yet. It takes me like a month to look at them.
Oh, really? Wow. I review like immediately to get really pissed.
No. And then I start looking back at the things that I did wrong. Like losing is a part of our sport, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wins all the time,
Yeah.
right? And you have to learn to accept that. Then you have to learn to, like for me, I don't want to say there's no winning or losing, but there's what didn't I do? Like what did I do wrong? Like how can I learn from this? And so the physical aspect, I know what I was doing wrong. Like I know I wasn't firing. I know I didn't have the strength. I was cramping up. So there was a bunch of things going on at once. And then you have to ask yourself, well, why was that happening? Because I'm never really nervous before match anymore or anything like that. I'm not scared of anyone or any issues like that. So I have to ask why wasn't I doing that? So I go back, blame's probably not the right word, but I lost 14 pounds last week, which I do at every tournament. I didn't recover. I messed up my recovery, and there's a few things that I did wrong in rehydrating, that I wasn't hydrated enough. And I realized that after, because I was still cramping up all day Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah, and part of Monday. I didn't kind of release till like Tuesday. So I'm going to get with some of the people I work with and figure out what I did wrong. But when you lose that much weight and you try to rehydrate it back on within 24 hours, if you don't do it right, you kind of have like a brain fog. It's almost like being hungover, like without the nausea. Like you're not clear. And that's how I felt. I've been there before, but not to this extent. So I just got to go back to the drawing board and figure out what I did wrong and do that correctly next time. And, that's not taking anyone away from the guys that won and all that. They all did great and they had good days. And sometimes you just have bad days and stuff doesn't work.
Well, you said that you always did 14 pounds. It's a normal cut for you. But the thing is, as we get older, don't you agree that it gets harder to lose and recover?
Yes, 100%. And I don't recommend it to anybody. Like I wouldn't recommend anyone cut this like that. And I don't think it's healthy for me. But I have a bigger goal than that. I have 2 bronze medals and a silver at Worlds. So I'm getting close. And I feel like I have a fighting chance to win. And for me, because of my height and my weight, like my normal walk around weight's like 194 pounds, 193, 92, around there. I'm too light for the 198 pound guys, like the 90 kilo guys.
Yeah.
In the international level, they're just so much taller than me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a tougher match. So I'm kind of right in the middle. And then go down to 81 kilos or 178 pounds. It takes me a minute to get down there. So, it's the pluses and the minuses of where to go.
Yeah.
I don't think it's so everyone out there competing over 40, I don't think you should. I wouldn't recommend it.
No, yeah, and you are lean. I mean, you said that you walk around with 193, but it's 193 of muscle. You are pretty lean. You don't gain a lot of fat at all.
I mean, I got a little bit of back fat. I think I could lose. There's some there, some here. And even now, I think because of this cut, I'm gonna drop a few more, maybe 5 more pounds, and then make that cut just a little easier for me.
Yeah, if you walk around with 188, maybe that would be ideal, right?
Yeah. So then we just have 10 pounds to go, which wouldn't be too bad. Plus, I'm going to get things checked. I have a close friend who's a medical doctor, and he checks my blood work and all that. And we toyed around with the idea of checking my blood work before I do the cut, during the cut, and then right after, and see what's going on in there, and see if there's some ways that I can do it better.
Yeah. No, it's a very interesting point. The cut is very dramatic for sure, and I fully agree that 90 kilos for you will be really high because the Europeans, they are so tall, as you said, and they're just too powerful for 90. It's too big.
Here's the thing that I can't. Here's the one thing that kind of bothers me though. In Lisbon, I got silver medal at 90 kilos.
Oh, really?
and one of the guys that I beat from Kazakhstan, he won the next year. So you got that.
Wow. I didn't know you. I didn't know you competed 90 kilos.
I used to compete 100 kilos. I have a bronze at 100 kilos. I have a bronze at 81, and I have a silver at 90.
But you feel more comfortable on the 80.
At 81, I feel tremendously stronger than everybody and heavier, and still fast enough. I feel more dominant at 81.
Last year when you went to Poland, you got third, right, or second?
Bronze. Yeah, I lost to the guy who won, Chris Menet from France. I lost to him in the quarterfinals.
And that was 81.
81 kilos.
Did you feel good?
Feel good, yeah. So I did the cut right there.
And it was also a similar cut, 14 pounds?
Similar, yeah, same cut. Yeah.
In 1 week?
1 week, yeah.
But why do you do 1 week? Why not 2, for example, to not be so aggressive?
Because it's all just water. It's not fat at all. Because I can keep my strength and keep training hard all the way up to the end. I don't train, so I stop training the Sunday before every tournament. So my last workout's on Saturday, and Sunday I begin my cut, but it's a passive cut. So it's a recovery, body recovery for my body. So all of my joint pain calms down, but it's a passive water cut. So I'm still eating a lot the whole time. I'm just manipulating my water. So I'm not losing body fat.
So your diet doesn't change?
Well, it does. It changes a little bit in what I eat. So starting Sunday, I cut all my carbohydrates.
Okay.
Or
so
less than 50.
You go keto?
Yeah, I go keto. Yeah. I can eat as much fat and protein as I want. And I do that all the way until Thursday. Thursday, I eat small meals. So I'm just manipulating how much water my body's holding, not how much fat I'm burning. Mm-hmm. So if I were to start a weight cut earlier, then my workouts wouldn't be as intense.
But do you still do cardio?
I don't. The last week I don't do anything.
Really? Not even cardio?
Nothing, yeah.
Well, but one day before you go to the hotel, to the sauna and everything, right?
There's a couple ways we do it, yeah. So between either sauna or you take a really hot bath in your hotel room and then you put sweats on and all that after. There's ways to do it. Yeah. And I'm not, I'm not the only one that does. I mean, there's thousands of people that do it, that compete.
Yeah. The good thing about the last weekend is that there was a lot of sauna place around that venue, and people were going there and pay to stay there for an hour.
I did that when we were in and when I was in France this last time. I did that. I just went and paid for an hour in the sauna. Sauna is easier because you just kind of sit there.
Yeah, it's much easier. Much easier.
The hot baths are difficult just because they're uncomfortable.
No, it's a great point. The whole weight cut and everything. Now,
but again, I wouldn't recommend anyone does it. The point in doing judo is to be able to beat anybody, right, at any weight. I'm doing those cuts more specifically because I want to achieve a certain goal.
Right. Absolutely.
And by doing it at all these tournaments, I'm practicing doing the weight cut is practice just as much as competing is practicing. So like this last one that I messed up somehow is a learning process for me. So I'd rather mess up there at nationals than mess up at worlds. So
As far as supplementation, doctor, do you have any specific supplementation that you use? Protein powder, any type of supplementation that you use that to,
Yeah,
to help you?
I don't take any protein powders just because I'd rather eat my food. And I think a lot of them are junk out there, and a lot of them cause some other effects. I'm a big vitamin person, um, quite a bit, like an array of stuff, and like all basic things like multivitamins, vitamin C, zinc, DHEA, vitamin D3, like all the things that I kind of evolved into taking, and I make sure that I take those every day, no questions, 100%. So
No,
a
what
lot of
about
vitamins.
BCAA? Any type of supplement?
No, and I don't know why. Like I just never have. Not that it's bad. I think they're good. I do take a drink called Kachava. Did you ever hear of
Yeah,
Kachava?
yeah, I
Yeah,
have.
I'm a big fan of that. It's expensive, but I do that once a day.
Yeah, because
'Cause
honestly, last weekend we were talking, and you said to me that you don't lift weights, but you have like a body of people, a person that lifts weights. I was like, how come he doesn't
well,
lift
well,
weights?
specifically, no, not yeah. I don't like very little weights. It's a lot of sandbags and kettlebells and pull ups and push ups and um, not too much. Like I don't do bicep curls or tricep push downs
And,
or like
and
calf raises
any
or any of that stuff.
deadlift or squats or anything?
No. Yeah, no deadlifts or squats. I used to years ago. I mean, I did it for a long, big part of my life, but not anymore. And that's for the risk reward is too risky for me with my back and my joints. So doing a deadlift or a squat, there's so many other things that you can do for our sport that are better for you with less risk.
But what
Like I
do
have,
you have a chronic injury on your back that you've
yeah, my back's jacked. Well, I got multiple herniations in my neck and my low back. Like if I went to any surgeon, for sure they'd want to do surgery on me.
really,
Absolutely.
and you don't
Um,
get any concern about getting thrown with those problems?
well, that's why I do all the exercises to strengthen my back and my joints. But again, they're dynamic movement. So judo's dynamic, right? So I'll practice dynamically.
The-
So I'm a huge fan of the sandbags. Again, kettlebells because they're so dynamic. So I keep my back strong. So it's not. I shouldn't say I'm not lifting weights. I am, right? I'm lifting a weight. I'm just not doing like your traditional. I don't do Olympic lifts or any of that stuff.
Now the sandbag, the one that you do you prioritize the movement? In other words, you don't go too heavy, right? It's not like a 200 pounds sandbag.
We go pretty heavy, 150
Oh,
pounds.
okay.
Yeah, we'll get up there. I would do a 200 if I could lift it. Just what the exercise I'm doing, I don't do it with them. So, for instance, for squats, I'll squat with a sandbag
Okay.
instead of putting weight on my back.
What is it? What is the
Um,
advantage of that? You think?
Couple things. So when I'm doing a squat with a sandbag, I actually have to hold it up,
Hmm.
right? I got to grab onto it and hold it. So I'm working my arms and my back,
Yeah.
right? So almost like doing a bear hug or something in judo,
Hmm.
right? I'm getting used to holding on strength. And it's more dynamic. Like that bag moves around. It's not evenly balanced on my back, right? Our bags, they're not solid.
Yes.
They kind of move around. They're hard just to lift up. Um,
That
and so I think by using those, you incorporate more muscles.
makes sense.
Like I think
You engage more
traditional,
muscles.
yeah, traditional weights are too isolated and they're too linear, right? Everything's like pushing forward, pushing up, pulling back, which none of judo's like
Now I
that.
understand why you are so good at uranage because of the sandbag. this,
100%. I practice those, so we get our heavy one, I pick it up and throw it over my shoulder.
yeah, that's a uranage, right?
Yeah, 100% it is. And we even do like I do chest with sandbags. So our sandbags, so my presses will be with sandbags
Interesting.
because it's the same motion. Like when you do a bench press, your shoulders are our hands are never in that position in judo, right? We never have a wide push off. My hands are always closer. So I like doing sandbags, and the sandbag kind of moves around and kind of, you got to get used to that motion.
No, yeah, that's a great point. So everything that you do nowadays has a meaning to judo, basically.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. But too, you know what? I think in life too it does. So when we lift weights, and like all lifting weights is good. I'm not going to tell people to stop lifting weights, but as I progress in age, right, I want to keep the parts of my body strong that I know I'm going to need, right? So I want to be able to bend over and lift something up, right? I want to be able to sit up or be on the ground and stand back up. I want to be able to hold on to things. So grip strength is important to me. Like if I fall, I want to be able to hold on to something. As I age, I want to be able to open up a jar of peanut butter or whatever, right? So, I want to be able to carry grocery bags from the car into my house, So I look at just functional movements in life, right? I think everyone, if you like, as we age, traditional lifting, like everyone kind of lifts like bodybuilders, right? That's kind of, it's cool. You want to look a certain way. I'm with it, man. But you also want to be functional, right? There's a guy, Dr. Peter Attia. It's a medical doctor who does a lot of longevity stuff. And he had an interesting statement saying that he wants to be the best 100-year-old out there.
Yeah.
Right. He wants to be able to play with his grandkids on the floor and get up. He wants to be able to carry his own groceries into the car. And that's a great statement. So as we train, stop looking at it so much as how I look and it's how I can function and continue to function.
Yeah, if you can align both, it's great.
Yeah, right. And look, and this is nothing against traditional lifting. I did it for most of my life. I only started kind of training like this in the past few years.
That's why you have a good foundation, I think, as well.
Good foundation, right? I used to power lift and bodybuild and all that stuff. So I've trained traditional weights for years. Two reasons I kind of stopped doing it. Number one, foremost, was judo, right? I wanted to get better at what I'm doing. But number two, I just got sick of training the other way. Like, I mean, how many bench presses can I do, or how many incline presses and flies? Like, I did it for 30 years. I just got sick of doing it. And
it is interesting. You never went towards like CrossFit type of training, or did you do it also?
No, I never did CrossFit. I've done CrossFit type things. The one thing I have against CrossFit, and this is nothing against them. I think they do a great job. I think it's great for younger people than it is for our age. There's too much emphasis pushed on maximums.
Yeah.
Like how heavy can I go? How many reps I can go? I think there's too much emphasis on that. Again, as we age, like over 40, and I'm 53, so the risk reward isn't worth it for me.
Yeah.
I think that high intensity, getting a cardiovascular workout with your workout is great, but there's a lot of risk. For me, it wasn't worth the risk.
No, makes sense. Yeah, because also the joints take a beat as you always are pushing to the limit on your PRs.
What's one thing I started doing differently with my training, and I thought there would be a difference in my gains, and there wasn't. I never push past a certain limit. So here's an example. If I'm doing pull-ups, for me, like after I get over 8 or 10 pull-ups, right around there, I start to get tired like everyone else. And that's always when I hurt myself. Like, and I'm just making this number up. Like I'll get 10 easy ones. And like the 12th one when I'm training, I pull a rotator cuff or I pull a lat or something happens, right? It seems like that injury always happens when I push it to the very end. So for me, I stopped, I scaled back. So say 10 is my maximum pull-up. I started doing 7. So I never put myself in that end range.
Interesting.
Where those injuries happen. Like I pulled a bicep one time. And again, and I'm making that number up. It might have been like the 12th rep, like, my bicep. And then I hurt for 6 weeks. So I never put myself in that position anymore. But since I don't put myself in that position, I can do it more often. So I kind of do full body-ish workouts 3 days a week. and I can always do them because I don't push myself to that breaking
Well,
point.
I think that this is true not only for weightlifting. If you think about it, how many people got injured in the last round of randori? They were already
Sure.
dead, and someone say, "Hey, let's go one more." Like, no, I'm
Yeah.
tired. They went one more, and that's when they got hurt.
Yeah. You know what I think for veteran judo players? You have to become very selfish with your training, meaning just that. If you know 10 rondoris is your limit, then don't do 11 because some young guy wants to do an extra one with you. Or maybe someone who has the capacity to 12 rounds wants to do with it and your capacity is only 10. You just got to say, no, that's it. I'm good.
That's an
And
awesome point.
stick
That's
with
an
it.
awesome point because sometimes it's the ego. Sometimes it's like I have to say yes. There is a lot of things involved.
How many times does ego hurt us?
Yes.
you know, that's probably where most injuries come from.
Yeah, I see that a lot of time at the gym. People are afraid to say no, or the ego doesn't allow them to say no. Yeah,
I'm going to say 90% of gym lifting is ego,
yeah,
right? And showing off in front of other people, right? The only people you're impressing is like all your friends. That's all that matters. and it does more injuries and more long-term problems have come from it.
yeah. And that's one of the reasons I built my gym in my garage during COVID, and now I basically train on my garage. I don't even go to the gym.
All you need.
It's all I need is there. I have no distractions. I don't need to. There is no need to impress anyone. I do on my own terms.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Doctor, it was such an amazing conversation. We could go hours and hours, but I know that you have a busy Saturday ahead of you. I appreciate you taking the time to record this. I'm looking forward. Last weekend it was my very first nationals. It didn't go the way.
Oh, there's your
Yeah,
first
it was
one.
my
Oh,
was my debut, and I was the only green belt among all the black belts. So it was very interesting.
keep doing it, man.
It was a very interesting experience, and I was happy just the fact that I was there, right? Because last year
Look,
I ruptured my triceps. I had a surgery on my tricep, so it was my first tournament after the surgery, and I felt good just to be there. Of course, when
just to show up and train for it and be there and go through the process is a huge undertaking. So good for you.
yeah, thank you. And of course, when I look at the video, I see all the mistakes and I see the areas that I need to improve. And of
Yeah.
course, I got pissed because I had opportunities that I didn't really take advantage. But it is what it is. As you said, you have to look at those things and see how you can improve.
We all lose, right? And you got to learn from it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Doctor. I appreciate your time.
Right on. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. This is a wrap for today's episode. Make sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and stay tuned. We have more to go.